It was Lord Acton who sent a letter to the Archbishop. The Archbishop was saying, I know that many of you disagree with the king, but he's the king. The Lord has anointed him. We need to give him the benefit of the doubt. Lord Acton wrote to the Archbishop and said, essentially, are you out of your mind? Don't you know that power corrupts? And absolute power corrupts absolutely. You've heard that phrase before. What you don't know is where it came from. It came from this letter. And Lord Acton argued that contrary to giving the benefit of the doubt to people in power, one should always be suspect of the person in power. That the person in power is more likely to be lying, scheming, or harming than to be helpful, because we hear it, power corrupts, but what he says is literally, is power tends to corrupt, and absolute power to corrupt absolutely. Great men are almost always bad men, wrote Lord Acton, even when they exercise influence and not authority. And still more, when you superadd the tendency of the certainty of corruption by authority. And we know this if we look at history, the history of any culture. The person who pursues power, just like the person who pursues wealth, will find that the pursuit of power or wealth tends to make them terrible people in contrast to what they had been before they began to pursue. Of course, our fiction is full of stories about this, whether you're reading Dickens or ancient Greek mythology. The person who's pursuing power tends to become something they wish they weren't. And if that's true, and I'm persuaded it is, if it's true that power corrupts, then what would be the opposite? If power tends to corrupt us, if the pursuit of power and wealth tends to poison us, poison our souls, what is it that would enhance us, purify us, cleanse us, make us more likely to become the kinds of human beings we'd like to be than that we would despise? And it doesn't take rocket science to figure it out. If the pursuit of power and wealth corrupts us, then it would be the opposite of pursuit of power, would be the giving up of power, the giving power to others, the giving wealth to others. And so you find the tendency of Jesus, who actually wanted to be the best human being he could possibly be. And he pursued that not only through his religious beliefs, but through his social practices. And you find Jesus constantly giving power to others, giving wealth to others, caring about the poor, not only because it's nice to care about the poor, but because the pursuit of power and wealth will kill me, and the caring for the poor and the powerless will not only be good for them, but will heal me. If I want to end my life being the kind of person I want to be, the path is actually pretty clear. And so you have in this story of Bartimaeus, the blind beggar, in absolute illustration, a concrete illustration of how Jesus pursued his own life so that he would genuinely be the most pleasing Son of God possible, but how he invites us to do the same. And I love this story. You'll find a different version of it in Matthew. In Matthew, there's 2 blind beggars. Here in Mark, it's 1. And it's different in Luke. In Matthew and in Mark, Jesus encounters the blind beggar on his way into Jericho. And in Luke, on his way out of Jericho. And in Luke, he meets him on the way into Jericho and meets Zacchaeus on the way out. So there's different versions, but we're in the Mark version. And I like the Mark version best. There's humor in it as well as insight. It starts out like this. So Jesus and his disciples come to Jericho. They're on their way to Jerusalem, where Jesus knows that he will be arrested, betrayed, tortured, killed. And yet he's coming anyway. And he's been telling his disciples all along, this is going to happen, and they're not listening. That's not what they want. They want power. And they know that when they hear Jesus saying he's going to Jerusalem where he'll be killed, that's the opposite of the pursuit of power. So they're resisting. Remember last week when James and John want to be the greatest? So they're having this argument all the way to Jerusalem. They come to Jericho. And here's this man. He and his disciples and a large crowd are leaving Jericho. Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus. Bartimaeus is Aramaic. We're reading this in English, so we don't see what's going on in the Greek. But in the Greek, you have Aramaic, Bartimaeus, and then Greek, son of Timaeus, because he's merely translating. Bartimaeus is not his name. He is, who is this guy? Well, he's the son of Timaeus. They care so little about him, they don't even know his name. He is a nobody, a blind, poor nobody. He hears this crowd coming by, a crowd of people on their way toward Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover. And he asks, what's going on? And someone says, well, the crowd of pilgrims is coming by and Jesus is among them. Now, he may be blind, but he's not deaf. And he's heard about Jesus. And he cries out, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. And how do all his followers respond when this guy is calling out for help? How do all of the church members, the followers of Jesus, the pilgrims on their way to worship in the temple, how do they respond to this nobody, this powerless beggar? They tell him, shut up. Oh, that's not what our translation says. Our translation says, many sternly ordered him to be quiet. Right? Shut up. Why are you bothering us? Well, what's the answer to the question? Why is he bothering them? He's powerless. He's poor. He's a beggar. And many tell him, just shut up. You are not what we care about. We care about power and wealth. Jesus cares about his followers as much as he cares about the blind man, so he gives them a task to help cure them. They're telling the blind man, shut up. Jesus stood still and he says, call him here. Here's what he doesn't say. He hears the son of Timaeus and he doesn't say, come here. Nor does he even go to him. He turns to his followers, the ones who've just told this guy, shut up. And he says to them, call him here. He's putting them in their place. I want the best for you, thinks Jesus, that you could have. And you're not going to get the best if you are ignoring the person who has need. If you want to become what you really want to become, if you want to become what I want you to become, I want you to go to the man that you've been rejecting, the man that you have been ignoring, the man that you think is a problem for you, and call him. That's the first thing we churchgoers need to do. Look around for the people that we consider to be an inconvenience, an annoyance, not our tribe, not our kind of people. That's the very person that God wants us to say, God cares about you. You matter to God. And up till now, you didn't matter to me, but you matter to God and you matter to me. And so he comes. Jesus says, one of the dumbest questions ever. What do you want me to do for you? What do you think? Says the blind man. I'm blind. I want to see again. Don't miss that word again. He wasn't born blind. He used to know what it was to see. But through disease or an illness or something, he has lost his sight. And what he wants is restoration. And of course, that's what we all want. Obviously, during this pandemic, we want to take off these stupid masks and hang out together and be free to be with one another, free to work, free not to be waiting for 6 months for something you've ordered. We want life again to be the way it was, which is what he wants. Jesus does not lay his hands on him and heal him. There was a blind guy a couple of chapters earlier where Jesus spits on the ground and rubs mud in the guy's eye. He'll do that again at the pool of Siloam in Jerusalem, but he doesn't lay his hands on him. He doesn't do a miracle. In fact, as far as we can tell, Jesus doesn't do anything at all. He says to the man, go your way. Your faith has healed you. Now, don't take this the wrong way. I've seen religious people look at someone who never gets better and they say, oh, you don't have enough faith. Well, there are other times when Jesus heals somebody who's not even around. There's at least one other time when Jesus raises somebody from the dead. Clearly, it's not their faith. So you can't say that faith is the sine qua non of healing. Sometimes it's entirely up to Jesus. But sometimes you aren't as stuck as you think you are. He says to the son of Timaeus, your faith, not my power, your faith, not my miracle, your own faith is all you needed to restore your life. And so in this passage, we have a couple of calls. One, look for the person we've been ignoring, the person who annoys us. In fact, I could take a list, make a list, put it on my refrigerator. The person who annoy me. I could list them. I could put them in order from most annoying to least annoying. And who is it that if I want to become the kind of person I want to become, who is it I should care about most? The person on the top of my list. Because if I do that, not only does it please God, not only does it make the world a better place, which it does, not only is it good for them, but the caring for the annoying person makes me a better person. To the extent that I can heal my greedy, cold, dark little heart into something light, warm, generous, and large. To that extent, I'm changing the world. So we care first for the others. And then Jesus turns to us and say, by the way, your own faith can heal you. This is a remarkably exciting, optimistic passage right in the middle of Jesus's journey from life toward the cross. All the way he knows, I'm on my way to Jerusalem to die. But along the way, while I'm on the way to Jerusalem to die, along the way are others. And on my way to death, I can give them a taste of life. Don't you want to be that person? Don't you want to be like Jesus, who, even though we face our own deaths, which are certain, we can give life all along the way. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.